from a galaxy far, far away.
And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s.
From Thrawn to Dantooine
And everything in between. This is Legends Lookback.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Lookback, proudly part of the Utini Podcast Network. This is a Star Wars books podcast for people who like to ward off trouble with a Crate Dragon call from time to time, where we celebrate our rich EU history as well as dive into lesser-known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and I'm joined by some very legendary co-hosts tonight. First and foremost, fresh out of the U-Haul, with all of our Utini gear for celebration, and I heard it arrived safely, which is good news. Freddie C., how are you, Freddie?
Thankfully safe and sound. It was about a 400-mile journey from Arizona to California, where all this stuff was located. And here I am, back in California, excited to be here, and legendary guest for sure. I think, there is Rick. There is Rick, but there's also another legendary guest.
That's right. That's right. Emily Daybett cannot join us tonight because she had a power outage that claimed her internet connection, put it on a gaffy stick and shook it over its head for a little while just to gloat. It's too bad because honestly, we could really use her grace and composure and professionalism on tonight of all nights. That's for sure. So shout out to Emily, who I'm sure is in the chat watching this when it goes live. But we do have joining us our producer, who's very excited about tonight's guest because he's a fan of more than one Star franchise, Rick Grace.
That is 100% true. I got my U.S. Enterprise E shirt on, my Klingon hat. I've got a little book back here to talk about in a second, so I'm ready to go.
For once, we have to tolerate this, and that is because tonight we are joined by the author of, yes, some Star Trek stories, but also Star Wars books such as A New Dawn, Lost Tribe of the Sith, the Knights of the Old Republic comic series, Knight Errant, and Kenobi, rated as a masterpiece according to Utini.com. He's making his long-awaited return to Legends Lookback. New York Times bestselling author John Jackson Miller.
Hey, kapla!
Ha!
Oh, wait, wrong franchise. Yeah, may the force be with you. Yeah, that works. I've actually not made that error in a book before, so thank goodness.
Nice.
That's what editors are for. Well, thank you so much, John, for making your return to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh, man, so exciting. So exciting. Very fun. We have been doing a Kenobi week here at Utini every night of the week this week, for the most part. We missed Tuesday. But we've been doing a lot of Kenobi content.
Why now?
Because,
it's always a good time for Kenobi.
I was about to explain Kenobi to John Jackson Miller. Yeah, it is a very fun time to be celebrating a character we all know and love for some obvious reasons.
It's always a good time.
That's right.
Definitely. We have had the Living Force did our kickoff character analysis on Monday. On Wednesday, the Cosmic Force covered Marvels from the Journals of Ben Kenobi, trade paperback collection of some comics from the 2015 run. We last night did a double episode of Legends Look Back about John Jackson Miller's seminal novel, Kenobi. We will be launching part 2 of that next week. Wes, right now live while we're recording our own interview, is playing Game Nights. He's played a little bit of the 2003 Xbox Kenobi game, and then also has, I think, jumped over to Battlefront because that was an old game and it wasn't working very well. And by that I mean Wes was dying a lot. A lot. Sorry, Wes. But without further ado, we are going to be getting into the show. So we interview John Jackson Miller. So take it away. The history of Kenobi really is an amazing story of how it came to be in its present form. To think that it was originally conceived of as something entirely different than what we ended up getting, and yet the Force made a way and got this book to us. Also, some hard work by John Jackson Miller himself and actually having to write the thing. But the stars aligned. On your website, John, you detailed the initial idea for the graphic novel known, at least to you, as Ben, right?
Yeah.
So can you walk us through the development of that initial pitch versus what eventually became a reality?
Well, 2006, I was basically 12 years into having worked for Krause Publications, where I was editing magazines like comics retailer, working with Comics Buyer's Guide, Scry, the card game magazine, and I'd been running books and things for it. And I had hopped over to do some freelance writing. I had written for Marvel and then Star Wars comics. And I had not done really much prose yet. I think I had a short story that was going to go on Hyperspace, which was the online service that StarWars.com had.
That was an episode about that, Freddie. That'd be
I was working with Pablo Hidalgo, who was actually running Hyperspace at that point. And so, I'm in one of those phases where I know I need to quit my job because a private equity firm has bought it out and then sold it to somebody who is also getting ready to try to sell it. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to try to get as much work as I can together while I can. And there was also this very weird period at the company where they forgot I was working for them. So I was actually doing a number of comic scripts for Knights of the Old Republic in my office. I don't guess I can get in trouble from that now. But I was in that office one day in the fall of 2006, where and again I'd been working on a variety of things by that point. To try to, get enough work to go off on my own. And I was contacted by Jeremy Barlow, who was my editor on Knights of the Old Republic, saying, let's talk about doing a graphic novel for Dark Horse's 20th anniversary and Star Wars' 30th anniversary, which would have been 2007. Okay. And we started, batting ideas back and forth about, well, maybe we could do some kind of a Western, maybe sort of a thing with Boba Fett in it. And then it was, him and me arguing, or not arguing, but arguing in favor or talking about the wonderful points of, well, if we're going to do a Western, we ought to, riff on some, movie that's that we both love. And we mentioned Shane. Which was originally a novel and then a movie starring Alan Ladd Sr. And of course, Alan Ladd Jr. would go on to be a producer for Star Wars, some years later. And again, we hadn't quite figured out, what to do. And then, I guess it was October 5th, 2006. And I know this because it was exactly 15 and a half years before the re-release of Kenobi came out.
Oh, cool.
Exactly. I've got the email. I posted part of it at one point. I had a brainstorm and I said, okay, I sent an email saying the Ben Kenobi Western is the subject line. And in about 6 paragraphs, I wrote the novel. Very much broad strokes, but most of it is there. In terms of, hey, this is going to take place over the first month or so that Obi-Wan's on Tatooine. It's going to be a handful of interactions. We're going to mostly see him through others' eyes. And he's going to be a mess. He's going to be trying to figure out what he should do. And he's going to be very much a catalyst in these other people's lives. The one thing I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to do was something that was going to be a real heavy action piece starring Obi-Wan, where he's involved doing a lot of stuff, where he might be visible. This is the period where he's got to go underground. And I said, so here's what we do. I want to paint this this settlement, this area, the claim, and I want to tell a story of this family, and it ends up, by the second draft, breaks up into 2 families, and it goes from it being a younger woman, a teenage. Late teenage woman in the Annalene role to it ends up I in like the second draft I come up with the idea of no, it should be a single mom. It should be and she would have a young daughter who you could have those parts of the story that made sense. And I would basically tell the story of these two families that were intertwined, and kind of have an outsized influence on the area where Obi-Wan, not where he lives, but where he's going to go visit. And the idea from the beginning was he's going to have an interaction with these people. He's going to have an attachment that forms. Not necessarily romantic, but it's going to be something where, he's going to have the opportunity, if he wants, to form his own, circle again, a community, friends, because he's coming to terms with the fact that he's lost everything. He's lost everybody. He's lost it all. And he's going to have to learn that he's going to need to walk away from that. He's going to need to not be a regular presence in the local saloons. He's gonna learn that he needs to go hide. He might not necessarily have to be, completely buried, but he simply cannot be part of others' lives. So the book was going to be called. I said let's call it Ben, because it's about somebody who didn't previously exist. It's about him, transforming from, Obi-Wan Kenobi, this famous person, to crazy old Ben. And I can set up some things that lead into later events, but, the first reaction that Jeremy had to the plot is, he said, the email, he writes back, "Now we're talking." And, and that leads to me doing an outline, and, he says, that's good. Let's see if we can make it better. Second outline. And I think that's when a Yark's piece gets larger. And that's also when I bring in Mosep Benid, the lawyer for Jabba, Monkey Jabba.
Monkey Jabba, yes.
As we call him. Oh yeah. And then I end up doing a third draft. And by the third draft, it's 50 pages long. And by the third draft, we're now into 2007. We have missed the 20th anniversary. And also at 50 pages, there's no way in hell it's going to fit. It's never going to fit in a graphic novel. And also the pacing of it is intended to be slow. I never have a lot of sympathy for, people who will say, well, this book was slower than I expected. And it's like, Obi-Wan tells you in his first meditation, I can feel life slowing down around me in this place. I'm going to be moving to the tunes of the desert.
You've been warned.
Yeah. This is it. I have to not be frenetic. I have to not run from place to place.
It's
almost
definitely not something you expect, right? From a runaway Jedi.
Well, and I'm setting the scene. I'm showing people that are around that, I already knew that we were going to get 90% of our information about him through these other people, because the readers already know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. The readers already know why he's there. That's not interesting. What's interesting is how he can change his life and the lives of these other people, through his interactions with them that he dares to have. And he has to try to make these decisions about, what is it safe for me to do? He's got to Clark Kent his way through everything. He can't be Superman. He's got to hide behind the hood. He's got to hide behind, the glasses, more or less, and do his thing. So anyway, that was the idea there. And there are some very important scenes that I just went ahead and wrote in that third draft, or the second and third draft. Obi-Wan's interaction with the gangsters in Mos Eisley. That set piece was already in my mind all the way back then. The big moment that The one scene that was always in the book that I knew was always going to be there in one way, shape, or form is, and this was mentioned in your podcast part one the other night. Callie with the shotgun. I was like, okay, this is the moment that I want, where these two families that have been interlocked together hit this crisis moment and fly apart. And she's that the line in there, get away from her, I never liked you people. That's
powerful.
That's 2006, that's 2007, that's whenever it was. So again, that was all back then, and again we realized couldn't fit, and then two things happened, which is I think that was probably the last thing I did, the last thing I turned in before I got an assignment on a video game, just doing localization for a Korean video game that paid enough that I was like, okay, I'm out. I can quit. I can do my own thing. By that point, we were really hip deep as well into trying to get the Vector storyline underway for Star Wars.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
And so I was so busy with Vector, and I was really the holdup with Vector because I was never getting right what Randy Stradley was hoping for, and did not get it right until later that summer when we all got in a room together at Dark Horse and figured out what we were going to do. But I was like, I quit the day job and was able to go to Star Wars Celebration 07 in Los Angeles, and was picked up immediately more work there. The podcast I just did minutes before this was on my gaming my gaming career, which was not long except for Scry magazine. And the fact that I was asked at that convention to work for the Knights of the Old Republic campaign guide. But the other thing that I was offered to do there, the other project, is that Jeremy came to me and said, I'm the new head of the Indiana Jones line. And I'd like you to, and I didn't even let him finish the sentence. I was like, I already said beforehand, if there's an Indiana Jones 4, I'm on it. With the hope that I would actually get to do whatever the follow-on things would be, if there was a regular series or something, because I just love that idea. And so I got Indiana Jones, and we put Kenobi on the shelf. The other reason we put Kenobi on the shelf was because there was a rumor going around the convention at that time that hey, look, George Lucas might not be done with Star Wars again. He might want to do a storyline set in the dark times after Episode 3. Might be the rumor was a live action show that would have been on ABC, which was
right.
It was Disney by then, but it was not it was not Star Wars Disney. But it was like, okay, well, maybe we can't get near it. So I put it on the shelf, and in the interim, I both did several more years of, Knights of the Old Republic comics. I also did the Knight Errant novel and comics. The Lost Tribe of Sith novel and comics.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Or book of comics. But what that did was that meant that I had done my entree. I'd gotten into writing fiction for Del Rey,
sure.
And so. The first time I brought Kenobi up was at the next Star Wars Celebration in 2010, because we were looking for, what should I do next now that I've done, the Knight Errant novel. And I mentioned Kenobi, and I think Shelley Shapiro thought it sounded interesting, but it just didn't seem like something they could do because most of what they were doing was not involving the cinematic characters.
Right.
It was all other parts of the Legends.
Yeah, especially that timeline.
Yeah, other parts of the EU timeline at that point. And so I had no desire. I never had any desire to do anything for the New Jedi Order era, simply because I had not read anywhere near enough of what I needed to have read to do it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, and most of everything I did was in the distant past. So we come to 2012, and by that point, even though I had 3 comic series running by that point, I had miniseries for Knights of the Old Republic, for Knight Errant, for Lost Tribe of the Sith. It was my last miniseries for each of those. I knew that pretty much, I had I don't want to say I overstayed my welcome, but I had hogged a lot of the opportunities at Dark Horse, and I did not have anything slated next. I had looked at doing Knights of the Old Republic. The hope had been that Knights of the Old Republic would get a second series off of the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic War miniseries, the same way that Legacy got a second ongoing series that followed Legacy War, which was their miniseries. But they ended up going with a different creative team instead of John and Jan.
Yeah.
Legacy. I was really not interested in seeing Knights of the Republic come back with somebody else. And so what I did is I although I had ideas, there was never an actual, I don't know if I actually turned in the proposal or not for that series. I instead began developing an idea for, and I've mentioned this from time to time, but probably not on a podcast. But what I took to Celebration, the idea that I had cooked up for Celebration 2012, when I was going to be meeting with the Del Rey staff, my hope was to do something which would be like my own vector, where I would do a storyline that would be released in chapters the same way that Lost Tribe of the Sith was, and I would do a storyline that would step through time, would start in the Coder era. It would then go through the Lost Tribe of the Sith series, and then it would wind up in Knight Errant. And I would do it in prose. I got some distance into writing that. Not officially, but I meant the proposal. I got it done.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I got down there, and we're sitting on the floor of the hall outside the Orlando Convention Center exhibitor space, because there's no place to sit. There's no place to sit out there, and it's me and my wife and Shelley Shapiro and Frank Parisi, and from Del Rey, and I suggest that idea, and again, that idea I can see now is wallowing hip deep in non-movie continuity. It's as deep into that as you can be. And she says, well, we kind of are under a directive to now start telling the kind of stories that we weren't really so much doing. We now are under a directive to focus more on the movie characters.
Yeah.
And I have no idea whether that was connected to the sale that happened at the end of October or not. Because when this conversation took place, that was August. It probably didn't. But either way, let's say that it did. Great. Because what happened is she says, "What else do you have?" And I was like, well, that the thing that I led with was the thing that I had worked on. Well, there's always been, and she remembered it, and I said, yeah, it's the Ben Kenobi Western, and I went through it and I said, the plot is already done. And and the plot is already done. And so what they had me do is Jen Heddle asked me to, at Lucasfilm, asked me to write a sample chapter. And the sample chapter is in the book. And I'm sure I mentioned this on my behind the scenes, but I mean, I don't know if anybody could guess what the sample chapter is.
Okay. It's not the prologue because that was added later.
Yeah.
The Crate Dragon battle at the end is added later.
Yep.
Meditations are added later.
Yep. That I added later, but the idea of adding more than one.
Okay.
Because it was just one in the comics.
Okay. What do you think, Freddie? He mentioned that Monkey Jabba was that encounter with them was early on, 2006 in the script. It could be that chapter. I'm thinking it's more personal than that. What do you think, Rick?
I think it's something in the beginning, but I really don't know.
It's got to be, right? Okay, let's make our guess.
Yeah.
I'll say the Monkey Jabba, the warehouse where Ben has to save Orin. Is that it?
That's one guess.
Okay.
Let's see. Ooh, I'm not sure actually. I can't.
Okay. I can end there's a chapter that is early. It's not very early. It's after Ben has come to the claim the first time, and he'd left his groceries there. He left his groceries there, and so there's a chapter where Annalene is basically going through her day, and we see how annoying the customers are at the claim, and her talking with Lily and her friend, and then realizing, you know what, he left his groceries here. I'm going to go see him. She goes to see him, and it's like, hello, cowboy, and realizes that he is not adequately prepared to live in the desert.
Wow.
And so, she's walking around. It's like, okay, these plants need to be covered. These plants need to not be, there's a funny bit there where I think a bantha is, has gotten loose and is attacking Ben's house.
Right.
And basically, and the idea was, she wanted to see what their interaction would be like. And that was absolutely what I wanted to do. And I felt that would encapsulate, the feel that I had. And that, that got me to, think about what I wanted her dynamic with him to be like, and let the other characters' dynamics to be like. People ask about, mental casting, whether you visualize this character or that character as this actor or that actor.
Keanu Reeves, got it.
Yeah,
Kenobi.
I don't do that much, but there are moments that I will remember, and so I think I've said elsewhere that Oren Galt, I was always hearing Sam Neill for, and
what about Monkey Jabba? Who would you have casted for Monkey Jabba?
I didn't have one for Monkey Jabba, although I'm sure he would have been a fine the guy from Planet of the Apes, who's Roddy McDowell. I'm sure he would have done fine. I think Jabe, I thought like a pre-Spider-Man Andrew Garfield, I was thinking. But no, for Annalene, I actually remembered. There was an actress, actually a country singer as well, passed away a couple of years ago. Her name was Larry White, Lari, that appears in one scene in a movie that you won't know her name probably, but you remember the scene. How many people here saw Castaway?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Castaway.
Part of it filmed in Arkansas.
Well, probably that part, because she's the woman that sends the package at the beginning, and she's the woman at the crossroads at the end, who encounters Tom Hanks and says, "Hey, you look lost," and she's just a smiling, happy person. It's like, well, that way's Mexico, that way's Canada, that way's a whole lot of nothing, and that other way's my place. So whatever you decide to do, I'm like, okay, I want this person, this alien character, I want this person to be, to him, a ray of sunshine in a world that is just gone to absolute pits for him, and she's sort of there to say, there's a community over here. It's not the best. It's weird. It's got its own soap opera. But why did you move out here to the middle of nowhere? Why are you, you don't have to stay out here. It's why it's and again, she's just curious, because why would somebody who looks like Ewan McGregor move to the middle of the desert? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
John,
anyway,
one thing about Annalene before we move on, because
sure.
I've always been intrigued about this. So earlier we heard that you were thinking about making Annalene a character, single mother.
Yeah.
What was your thought process on that? Why go with the single mother? Was that to be inclusive, or what was the dynamic there?
No, I mean she I needed her to have at least the possibility of a romantic tie, and okay. I didn't want her to be Oren's wife. And again, originally she was much younger, and it was like, okay, well, that dynamic doesn't work there. If she's I think she would have been like 19 or whatever, but I didn't want her to be somebody who was following Obi-Wan around in a creepy way. I wanted them to be equals. I wanted them to be the same age, and in fact, I wanted her to be a little bit further along than he was, in the sense that she had actually had a family. She had actually had stability for a while in her life. It's all been uprooted, and they're kind of in the same position. If you think about it, they are in the same position. It's just, her life collapsed, but she has had to keep on going with it. Mm-hmm. The claim, all those people in that store, they're just more children that she's got. They're more, there are more people that are dependent upon her. And, I wanted there to be this moment that you get at the end of the book, or not at the end of the book, but at kind of the 3/4 moment of the book, where she can have this catharsis that he is able to encourage her to have, which is to say, I am trapped. Mm-hmm. This is absolutely, I don't have time to think about what I want to do with my life. And I'm just trapped. And of course he's trapped too, but he's trapped in a different way. And if you want to think about it this way, I've said that, my work has a number of running themes in it, like, within my Star Wars work, there's the theme of what does it mean to be a Jedi alone, and no longer supported by the Jedi mm-hmm. Order. And that's certainly there in Knights of the Old Republic. That's there in Knight Errant. There's even a Jedi alone floating around Lost Tribe of the Sith.
Oh, sure enough.
And New Dawn. What is New Dawn except a Jedi alone?
They all have that. Yeah. That blew my mind. I didn't even know. Mm-hmm.
So they all have that. But I have more of a meta thing that has been going on in not all of them, almost all of them though, that has continued on into my Star Trek novels, which has to do with loss and moving on. Because Zane Carrick loses the life that he has, and he has to try to make something new. Kara Holt loses every plan. She's already lost everything, that she grew up with in that region of space, has come back with a plan. That plan has blown up, mm-hmm. and she has to rethink everything. The Sith who crash land on Kesh, mm-hmm. they had one whole thing going on, and now that's all gone. And they've got to start over again. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Annalene are identical in that they have to actually find it within themselves to have the bravery to let go of what they were. They have to try to, have the bravery to imagine new lives for themselves and step into them. It's there, of course, obviously in in New Dawn, in Star Trek. I have, there's 2 books there. The closest to a trilogy I think you'll find thematically with Kenobi, that runs through the novel that came out in 2020, which is Star Trek Discovery Die Standing, which is about the evil emperor from the mirror universe, Emperor Giorgio, who has lost more than anyone has ever lost in the history of loss.
Whew, yeah.
She ran everything, and now she's in our universe, and she's just somebody.
That's great.
Or nobody. And she goes through the motions in that novel of trying to be who she was and recreate who she was. And it's actually, her other self and the people around her in this new universe that say, okay, you're going to have to be something new or you're going to die. That I'm not sure which side it's on. It's the Picard novel behind me there. There we go. Boy, that's in there. The Star Trek Picard Rogue Elements, which is about Captain Rios, who is thrown out of Starfleet, has no idea why.
Wow.
I've said it's kind of a thematic couple with New Dawn in a sense, because they both immediately decide they're going to drink their way through their sorrows.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, in each case, they have to try to say, you know what, I need to actually, stop trying to run on autopilot, because in Obi-Wan's case, it's going to get him killed, and it's going to cause the collapse of all hope. And in Annaline's case, she's going to burn out and she's going to die of hard overwork, because Obi-Wan gets her to the moment that you see in the end of the book. I guess spoilers are way off at this point.
We'll have to put a spoiler warning.
Obi-Wan gets her to where she is at the end of the book, where she understands, running the restaurant, running the bar, running the claim. That was never her dream. That was never what she wanted to do. That was what she felt like she had to do for her late husband, and for the sake of her children who needed some stability, or at least to remember what things were. And so to circle way back around to your original question about her being a single mom, I thought it fit perfectly, because in every broken family, there's an impulse to try to retain as much normalcy, as much of the former as possible, and not uproot people. Not, Annalene could not have made the decision that she does in this book 5 years ago, or however many years ago that Danner died. And she wasn't the right kind of person yet. She becomes that kind of person thanks to Obi-Wan as the catalyst. Obi-Wan, again, there's only so much growth that he's going to be able to go through, given that he's going to be here for 20 years. But I knew that what would happen in this 1 month period is that he had to actually say, all right, I need to slow down. I need to recognize that I'm no longer the solution to everything.
Right.
I had my shot. I failed. Luke is the new hope. I got to keep him alive, and I need to commit. And if that commitment means I'm going to be here for 1 year, 10 years, or the rest of my life, I will be. And it turned out to be the rest of his life.
Well,
maybe
that's
why
crazy.
Maybe that's why I like this book so much. I made the assertion last night that this is, I think, the best Star Wars novel as it concerns the wider world of literature outside of Star Wars, because it really means something. You really tap into some emotional depth in this book that's not in a ton of Star Wars novels that are more, galaxy romping adventures with lightsaber battles and space battles. And you mentioned on your website that you wrote this in isolation, snowbound in Wisconsin.
I read them all that way.
Freddie, what else do you want to say about that?
I'm curious. How did you fathom this desert world? How did you fathom this desert world while you were snowbound in Wisconsin? Because that's completely. I
looked out the window. I mean, it's sun, sand, all same, snow, sand. No, I mean when going outside is something that could kill you. When you have, I'm not originally from Wisconsin. I'm from Tennessee. We did not have in our winter weather forecasts the phrase "life-threatening," where they'll say that when it's 20 below, and that's not the wind chill. It's that's the sort of thing where you're like, okay, I will say that I have developed a preference over the years for doing my novels in the winter, in part because it enforces discipline on me to get it done and not go running off anywhere. But also there's no convention season or anything like that.
Sure.
Usually in that time, or when I have made the mistake of going to a winter convention, I usually don't get back.
Right.
Wind up in O'Hare. But excuse me, but I'm not sure how otherwise I could have put myself in that space. One of the things that I started doing during the pandemic is I moved my chair out to the computer that I work on. I moved it out to the living room where I've got a nice bay window that looks out on the world. And of course, there's nothing out there but snow and ice and the lake. But I put the big TV. Usually I have it streaming someplace where there's activity. I go with a live cam from Colorado or someplace where there's actually humanity. I could pretend I'm someplace else.
That's smart.
Very interesting.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this is my working hypothesis that we were testing last night, that this book is better when you're sweaty. Right. It was kind of an in joke that you've got to be working up a sweat when you read this thing to really experience the thirst to enjoy drinking from old number one.
Well, it came out in August, so
there you go. But then you totally dashed my theory when I read that you wrote this in a snowstorm.
Right.
Well, it's special effects. It's the magic of Hollywood.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, these you say these are kind of deep things to be about. Nothing ever starts that way. It started as it's going to be a Western. I mean, it's Die Standing started as it's going to be a spy novel. And I've never been one of those writers that can, start with, decide what your theme is going to be, decide what your, all of that business. No, that it comes out of the dialogue. It comes out of the characters. It comes out of their interactions. And then I realize, that's what this book is about. This book is going to tell me what it's about. Yeah. And then I can craft and recraft. And, it's not a necessary condition to sell a tie-in novel. It's not the way to sell most tie-in novels. People are looking for, different levels of action or different levels of, interaction with the shared universe that you're writing in. And so, they're maybe not as interested in your characters. They want to see more of the show's characters or the movie's characters or whatever. But no, I mean, I think it's tended to work out. Kenobi won the Scribe Award for best tie-in novel, fantasy science fiction, the year that it came out, and Die Standing did the same. And as far as rogue elements, we don't know yet. They don't announce those yet. But no, I like to try to actually have write a book where somebody will come up to me afterward and say, well, geez, that went places I didn't think it was going to go to, and I'm glad.
Yeah.
One of those places is the Sand People, right? Rick, take this one.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Our previous episodes we've been discussing this book, one that's already aired and one that's coming up. but a Yark is a tremendously captivating character, original character especially. So what led you to making a nuanced Tusken Raider as a main character?
A Yark was the last of the three, outsider, or observer characters to kind of develop. A Yark is in the comic books, but in terms, or what would have been the graphic novel. But a Yark, and specifically a Yark's gender, family, role, everything, that did not come until I started writing the novel itself. And again, it was a case of, I had been brought, a certain number of facts about the Tuskens and who they were, that I couldn't change, or that I was, it was already done before I got there. So Timothy Truman's Outlander storyline.
With Sherrod Het.
Yeah, I mean, so that was already there. And so a lot of things where people are saying, hey, you invented this, you invented that. Well, no, I adapted this, or I used a springboard from this. Or that, and it interacts with all of those stories, perfectly. It doesn't overrule or overwrite anything. I look for, I'm even, linking to things that are happening in the Scholastic Life and Legend of Obi-Wan Kenobi book. I was really serious, the Ryder Wyndham book. I was really seriously trying to make sure that I respected everything that had gone before.
Yeah.
And with the Tuskens, I was like, well, what can I answer? What hasn't been touched yet? They didn't have a religion. They didn't have a mythology. And I'm like, well, I could do something with the two sons, which maybe can speak to why they live in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
And, they're tied to the land. They're cursed. I wanted to come up with some ways to evade tropes. I mean, whenever I would occasionally hear some people saying, well, this is just tying into, old, Western movie, caricatures of the peoples, I always kind of go like, did you read the book? Because or if they say that it is a glorification of the Tuskens, and it makes them entirely sympathetic, that's also where I go, yeah, not really. The Tuskens, as shown in this book, are not nice people.
They're brutal for sure. Yeah,
and they're
we take Tusken steak.
And Ben understands there is no peaceful coexistence that is likely to be negotiated between these groups of people. That doesn't mean they have to slaughter one another.
Right.
But again, this is not something that they can come to terms with at a negotiating table ever. Their frames of reference are dramatically different. That again doesn't make them inherently bad. It's just that many of the things that they do are. I tried to actually, a Yark walks this same sort of path that Obi-Wan and Analine do, where it comes to the question of imagining a different life for themselves. A Yark has to come from the position of, okay, I can't lead these people. We need somebody here to lead us, to seeing that, oh, no, you know what? We don't need anybody to lead these people. I'm here. And so a Yark makes that jump. In part because, again, Obi-Wan has been the catalyst. It's because he was around Obi-Wan in part that, the facade around Oren Galt breaks free, and we see, who he really was. It's kind of the inverse of it. And even then, Obi-Wan is telling him, no, you can change. You can turn back now. You don't have to make this, the path that you follow. And Annalene listens and she changes her path. Yark listens and changes. Orin doesn't.
Oh, sure enough. Wow. Really blowing my mind here. I mean, I've read this book 6 times and have never seen the symmetry.
6 times just to turn it in.
That's true. There's that. And I think this really speaks to the book's legacy, right? I've read 280 Star Wars novels. That doesn't count rereads. I mean, this one really has a special place among them. It has not one but 2 reprints happening this year in 2022. One,
that's in this country.
In this country, that's right. It just released in Italy the other day.
It was Italy a couple of days ago. Spain about a month and a half ago.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Two in this country. Thank you. As part of Del Rey's Essential Legends collection, and then Barnes and Noble's collectible leather-bound edition coming out later this year. Is that August, I believe? Could be September.
September.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to show off these beautiful copies and let the listeners know that they can now pick up on the shelves the Essential Legends collection.
Essential Legends collection.
Yeah, Rick, can we get a one shot of him holding this thing? We gotta show it off. I mean,
well, there's that one. Let's see, where is my camera?
We're working on it. Yeah. Okay.
Right there. There's that one. Yes, that's the new edition. And then of course we have the hardcover back there and the paperback back there.
Yeah.
And if anybody is depends on when this is going to go online, but actually it'll be online until the 27th. I have the chance for somebody to get that thing.
Oh wow! Yeah, we're putting this up tomorrow, so going up Saturday. That plenty of time.
I realized, you know what? I've had a spare copy of the advanced reader edition of the book for years, and I forgot where it was for the longest time. And like, okay, well, I know where it is now. And so yeah, I did in honor of Kenobi week, I guess, if you want to call it. In honor
That's
of
right.
that, sure,
Thank you.
fine. Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's on eBay now. So anybody
Don
goes to
Jackson Miller referenced Kenobi week. See, in the article that I wrote for the site, I actually said there'll be surprises. The surprise was that you were going to do an interview.
Oh yeah.
I said surprises, but it was plural. Little did I know that we would even be surprised.
Well, I was like, I've got too much stuff on my shelves, and I'm like, oh well, gosh, this is a good week for this.
That's right. Very cool. So, listeners, go on over to John Jackson Miller's Twitter, JJM Faraway, and check out his eBay listing of. There's a hardcover copy. There's the advanced reader's edition, signed, by the way.
Yep.
Was there more to it than that?
Yeah, I also threw in the paperback, which is really, I'm guessing it's the last mass market paperback, the small one. I'm guessing it's the 16th printing. I'm guessing it's the last one because it is being replaced by this. And then there's a copy of this as well. And believe me, if I'd had one of the Obi-Wan Kenobi, or one of the if I'd had one of the Crate Dragon things that worked, I'd throw that in there. I know I have some somewhere, but they all kind of died at the same time. The batteries all went out.
Yeah, I sadly didn't get one. Freddie, I bet you got one of these back in the day, didn't you?
I did. I definitely did. I recall getting one, and
you got to send me that photograph. That's wonderful.
That begs the question, because there are different crate calls, right? And there was the one that we hear in the keychain, and then there's the earlier version, which it sounds almost like a Godzilla remix. Is what we could probably call that. And there's several different ones. Do you have a favorite crate call? The crate call that is, it's the one on the keychain. The crate call that's on the keychain, what it is, and this was great that they were able to do this. Leland Chi went back and he found the sound file for the original one from the first movie.
We need a TV show called Leave It to Leland.
Yeah, and so there's that, but then here's this other wonderful little nugget, which shows how sad I am, or obsessed I am, or how much service I'm willing to render. The novel, wherever there's the Crate Dragon call, I don't just say a Crate Dragon screamed. I have these things spelled out, Ayuga, or whatever it was. that is the exact same. If I tried to do it this way, I don't know if they corrected it. I wrote the exact same spelling of it every time, and it was the one that Alan Dean Foster used in the original novelization.
Wow.
I love that the honor that you paid to the authors who had come before you. It's evident that you love this stuff, that you're a historian of these franchises, and that you pay homage to those who've come before you. And I think it has paid off. It's now many authors wanting to pay you tribute, and it's a cool thing to see.
I appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, Mike Chen, I guess, has the Obi-Wan book that's out and has some references back to Kenobi. And again, that's just really cool. And
that's right. Oh,
you know,
there was something I caught when I read that the other day. The Satine calling him Ben. Yeah. And somebody said, that was from Clone Wars. And I said, nope. First it's in, it's
I'm trying to remember how that actually came about. And I went back and looked at my emails, and I know that my editor suggested putting Satine's mention in there.
Yeah.
But I think what it was somebody who had remembered something that had been in a script, a Clone Wars script that didn't actually air. I'm not sure though. And because it was a conversation that was offline at some point. And so I have no record of it. I have no recollection of it. So it's one of those things where, it's like I've mentioned that, as came up in your episode the other night about the first book that has the Legends banner on the cover.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Kenobi is the first one that has it, of the not counting Lost Tribe of the Sith, which I know that one was the first one with it, because that was the 8th printing, and they just had randomly, they go through these printings one at a time, and that was the first one to get the stripe. But Kenobi, I believe, was the first one of the other ones to get it, and I know for a fact that the Kenobi paperback release was delayed for 4 weeks because they were figuring out what they were going to do.
Somebody had to go find the banner.
Well, yeah, and it's one of these things that it might be like something that's just a phantom in your mind. I'm almost certain I saw a JPEG of the cover without the banner because it was that far along in the process.
Oh.
But it could have been something somebody showed me.
I guarantee you, if you can find one somewhere,
yeah,
I would put that one on eBay.
Well, there's not a printed version anywhere, but there is a. I think I saw. If I saw a JPEG, I saw it on somebody else's phone or something. I don't know, because I can't find it. But every so often, you'll remember something, and then somebody will actually bring it to you, and you're like, "Oh, well, I had been hypnotized into believing that I had imagined that Knights of the Old Republic 1 had a second printing, the first issue of that comic book. But I could never find in my email where they told me it had a second printing.
Okay.
And somebody brought me a copy at where was it? I guess it was Indianapolis, the convention that was there a couple of weeks ago. At FanX Indianapolis, and I'm like, wow, man, you got something worth some money here.
It's fantastic. Yeah, our buddy Jacob prides himself in being the first one to bring you the Knights of the Old Republic hardcover 13-pound omnibus to have you sign at a convention.
And I think I must have written first one.
Yeah, you posted it on Twitter. I mean, it's his badge of fandom honor. He was very excited. Well, speaking of conventions, do you have any plans for conventions that fans can find you at this summer?
Okay. I'm going to miss my first Star Wars celebration, sadly. It is the case that twofold. I mean, I've been spending most of my time in another universe anyway. With the novel Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, The High Country, the first novel for the new franchise. And again, and if you're wondering, is it surreal to have these tangential connections to 3 different TV series airing in the month of May between Picard and Strange New Worlds and this other kind of it's odd.
Wow.
But yeah, that comes out at the beginning of next year. And I literally turned in the proofreading for that yesterday.
Wow.
But
cool.
again, I've been spending a lot of time on that. But my intention had been to go to not San Diego, but to Los Angeles, and then we realized my daughter graduates high school that weekend, and I'm not gonna, I've missed enough days of my kids' lives to write books. Not gonna waste any time when I'm actually, promoting books or something when I can actually be actually at the event.
That's right. We are a family focused, family first show around here at Legends Look Back. So congratulations to your daughter.
I used to joke that I needed to write as much stuff as possible so that I could pay for my kids' therapy for being abandoned for my attention all these years. I don't know that they'd be any happier having me hanging around all the time. But yeah, so the next thing I'm actually going to do, Joliet, Illinois, has basically the largest outdoor Star Wars event in the country. Oh, cool. And has been having it for 10 years, 12 years, actually. It's just the last 2 years they haven't been able to have it.
Sure.
And it's the Joliet Public Library. The 501st takes over the entire downtown. I did it 5 years in a row. It's like 10,000 people show up. It's a huge. Where I sign in the library, and just everybody in the world comes through. And usually we've got other creators, Dave Dorman, Joe Coroni's been there before, and that is the June, I guess, the 3rd. So it would be it's the weekend after Celebration. I will be at that. I have a slate of other events that I am tentatively going to, but a lot of stuff is just up in the air right now in terms of my booksellers, and also just me in terms of it costs what to fly where, and so either you or the convention has to ask that question, and so. People who follow me on Twitter will be able to see my slate of where I'm going to next. And
great.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I am doing some of these online things. It is possible for people to get the Kenobi book signed by me without actually having to pay what is apparently going to be quite a bit of money to get the that auction.
Is it skyrocketing? That's awesome.
It was. I posted it at like 3:00 this afternoon, my time. When I looked just before this podcast, it was up to 370.
Woo.
So
just confirmed.
I was thinking 500 is probably the right price.
I don't know. That's why I did it as an auction, because I hadn't got the slightest idea. But
That's
then because it's not like the reader copies come up. But then I realized, well, if I could do that, I could actually have some more shelves I can clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me just offer, how to get a hold of us. Is there anything that you really want to just get rid of? You're happy to send it our way anytime. So
we'll talk offline.
Yeah. Hey, and I want to mention this one because
that one's available as well for people to buy off my website.
And I did that. And so this one's autographed by you, and it's the first time I have a personalized author autograph. So thanks for doing that, making yourself available.
It's signed "Live Long and Prosper," and you will find out in the wild there are a bunch of books where I started signing it incorrectly, so it'll be "May the Force live long and prosper."
Nice.
So
that's great.
That's
with that in mind, we're gonna turn the show off. So glad we got to talk about. No, before we turn you loose, we are gonna do one quick lightning round. We've got 10 questions here.
Sure.
10 questions, and as
what do I win?
Author, what's that?
You get to send us stuff for free.
Okay, that's what I win.
What does he win? As an author who is away with words, the trouble with the lightning round is we got to be quick. So as we go, one quick lightning round. Ready? Han or Luke?
Luke. Well, or Han. Luke. Depends on the day.
X-Wing or Millennium Falcon?
Millennium Falcon.
Books or comics?
I am the weakest link. Goodbye. I can't choose that.
I know.
There's a pull. Yeah, that one I knew was going to be tough. Okay, hardcovers or paperbacks?
Hardcovers.
All right.
Jedi or Sith?
Depends on the day.
Blue milk or root leaf stew?
I'm sure I don't know about lactose intolerance and blue milk. I think I would be going to Dex's Diner and trying to find something I recognized.
The ones at Galaxy's Edge are more like Fruit Loop smoothies than they are.
Have you ever seen a menu for the Marvel theme restaurant they had for like 5 minutes in the late 90s? It's basically that.
Wow.
It was back in the wave of Planet Hollywood kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you have the best references. Amazing.
That's good.
You do.
Amazing. Blue or green lightsaber?
Yellow.
Okay, perfect.
Ooh,
perfect.
Okay, I like that.
Well,
that's a great answer.
That's Zane Carrick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm ashamed I didn't even think of that.
And it's
That's a good one.
It's only because they had the wrong lightsaber on the Luke action figure that I had as a kid. That's why I
Oh,
gave it
yeah.
yellow.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
that's
referencing
awesome.
that. That's cool. Okay, Freddie.
Well, we've got Baby Yoda or original older Yoda.
I would go with OG Yoda. That's the
Yes.
original.
Nice. Do you prefer to watch in the theater or watch at home?
Theater.
Okay.
And
then
one last question.
last one.
We're going to give this one to Rick. We are.
this is the reason we're here. Kirk or Picard?
Oh, can I say Pike?
Hey, I accept that. Pike is a
I
good
don't
answer.
even know who that is.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. We've joked about this a bit. I just try to wallow in whatever shows I think are fun, movies I think are fun, and I could do 3 minutes on the ties back and forth between these two big franchises.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are just even aware of it. I'm not going to do all 3 minutes now, but I mean,
You can go ahead. It's fine.
Well, look. Why is Del Rey Books? Del Rey Books exists in part because the Star Trek blueprints, which were created by a fan, were obtained for Ballantine by Judy Lynn Del Rey. And it went to the top of the New York Times bestseller list, even though it wasn't a book.
Huh.
Wow.
And that and the Star Trek technical manual led to the Del Reys, Judy Lynn and her husband, having enough clout to get their own imprint and buy a little movie adaptation called Star Wars.
Wow.
And of course, who did they hire? They hired Alan Dean Foster, who had been writing for them the Star Trek log books, which were the animated series books. Judy Lynn and Lester's assistant was Shelley Shapiro.
Okay.
Shelley Shapiro, who edited Lost Tribe of the Sith, who asked me to do the first Star Wars fiction I did. Shelley Shapiro, who, when I asked if I could do maps in the Lost Tribe of the Sith books, said, "Do you know who I am?" I used to do because I work with Judy Lynn and Lester, I used to do the maps for the Tolkien estate.
Oh.
Wow.
He drew the maps for the Tolkien estate in the later Middle Earth books that they did.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you could still see her name on them. Shelley was the editor of Kenobi. When we were promoting Kenobi, the very first event at San Diego promoting it. After that event, I spoke with Jennifer Heddle. We discussed her putting me in touch with Ed Schlesinger, her former coworker at Simon & Schuster, who ran the Star Trek line.
Wow.
Because anybody who wallows in TV as much as I do, might want to write Star Trek as well. So I mean,
amazing.
this all interacts and connects. And on this score, I do have because we haven't mentioned projects coming up besides Star Wars, rather Star Trek. It's actually both. I wrote a pair of essays for a pair of academic journals or academic books. They're done by my friend Amy Sturgis and her co-author Emily Strand. These are two professors that do academic books about pop cultural themes. They did one on Star Wars and one on Star Trek at the same time.
Wow.
I wrote the essays for both of them about tie-in fiction, and it really was me writing those and realizing, oh my Lord, all these names keep reappearing in both of them.
That's cool.
And ideas that appear here first came from there, or vice versa.
Oh yeah.
And the cross-fertilization is just constant.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian Daley imports into Star Wars the turbo lift from Star Trek. The word. Leland Shee's office, the keeper of the holocron, that was something Gene Roddenberry wanted to get for Star Trek and Paramount in 1968.
Wow.
After the book that Golden Press did, the first tie-in Star Trek novel was so bad.
Is it because it was Star Trek? No, I can't.
No, it was because the writer didn't have any idea how the show did anything, and so oh no.
Well, I'm so glad we made it to the maps. The maps almost made it into part 1 of our show. They almost made it into part 2. I almost asked an interview question about the maps. So I'm glad we got to them.
There are maps in the Kenobi book too, except they're on the Star Wars website. Maps of the events of Kenobi.
Nice. So I'll have to drop that in the Discord. Well, thank you, John, for podcasting with us. This has been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
That does it for this week. Thank you for joining us for Legends Look Back. Thank you to our Discord member, Kylo10, for the aniline question. Shout out to him. He provided that one for us. A huge thank you, of course, to John Jackson Miller. And congratulations on the release of Kenobi as part of the Essential Legends collection. If you'd like your thoughts around the show, you can email us at legendslookback@utini.com. You can send us a message in the Legends Lookback Discord channel. Leave a comment on this episode on YouTube. Or you can find us on Twitter at Legends Lookback. Or you can contact John Jackson Miller, who is maybe the most entertaining person that I follow, at JJM Far Away. If you're looking to buy some of these books, such as, Kenobi by John Jackson Miller, or I guess those Star Trek books. But what you do is you go on over to utini.com, you click on the Amazon link in the profile, and then we get a few cents to help keep the lights on, and I believe he does as well. And after you've read the book, you can leave us a review, but you have to leave the Star Trek review somewhere else, sorry to say, and let us know what you think. Remember, everybody, to keep the Utini fan code, be a force of positivity in the fandom. And Rick, why don't you say his little tagline there? May the Force do what?
That would be, may the Force live long and prosper.
There it is. There it is. Just for you. Just for you. Good night, everybody.
This is a Utini broadcast.